everyone, and welcome to BookTrib Live, a Merrill Moss Media production. We're so excited to be chatting live today with New York Times bestselling author Jodi Thomas about her new book, Ransom Canyon. Jodi, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, I'm excited. I love talking about
For all
Ransom
of you,
Canyon.
yes, we're very happy to have you. For all of you watching, you have a chance to win a copy of Ransom Canyon. All you have to do is enter to win on booktrib.com after the chat. And we also want to thank Harlequin and Resistol for a very special additional giveaway, which you can enter to win as well on BookTrib today, which is a beautiful black Resistol cowboy hat, just like the one worn by Staten Kirkland in Ransom Canyon. And actually, it's hard to tell on camera, but on the inside, it's inscribed with made by Resistol, especially for Staten Kirkland. So very fun. Again, you can enter to win that at the end of the chat. And so, Jodi, for those who haven't read Ransom Canyon yet, would you mind giving us a little bit of information about the book?
Yes, Ransom Canyon is a story of 4 ranches that surround a very small town in Texas. And it's a story of the families. And it's going to be a 6-book series, and it has a pre-story that's already available. And you'll feel like you live on a ranch in Texas by the time you finish.
Well, we have a lot of great questions from some people tuning in. Jenny is wondering, you've written more than 43 books. How do you keep coming up with such original content?
I don't know. That's a question. I think a lot of people ask, well, where do your ideas come from? And I don't know. They've just always been there. I have 100 more waiting, so and I never have run out of ideas. In fact, most of the times when I'm writing a book, it's what to cut.
And Elizabeth is wondering, you seem to set a lot of your books in Texas. Talk a little bit about your connection with Texas and why you choose to set them there.
Well, I'm 5th generation Texan. So I grew up hearing all the stories of Texas history, and I love the study of Texas history. And plus, I live in Amarillo, and that's at the top of Texas. And so I'm living with the people. Someone asked me where I find the men for my heroes, and I think they're all around me. I see them every day.
Are they based on anyone very specific that you meet, or just sort of a combination of different personalities that you know?
They're really, they have their own personalities. When Staten Kirkland came in, it's kind of like he comes into the office in my mind, and he sits down and he says, let me tell you a story. And he has his own personality, and when I meet him, I don't know his secrets, and I have to learn them. But I based him on several men that I know that are ranchers and the way they feel about their land. People seem to think in other parts of the country that ranchers think of the land as they're the owner, they're the lord of the land, and that's not how they look at it at all. They see it as they're the caretaker. And even though the ranch has been in their family 150 years, they still see themselves as the caretaker of the land.
You mentioned that you're a 5th generation Texan. MM is wondering, what are some of your fondest memories from growing up there?
Of growing up? I didn't get all the question, but I think that was it.
Yes, what are some of your fondest memories from growing up there in Texas?
I think probably one of my best memories was when I was a little kid, and I used to go to a small town. My uncle was president of the Rodeo Association, so when I would wake up, when I went to see my uncle and aunt, he'd always have a horse ready for me. And I'd ride all over town and not only go to the rodeo, but go to the Dairy Queen and buy an ice cream cone on horseback. There's nothing like it. It was fun. And I think that's probably one of my best memories of growing up, always going to the rodeo in the summer and spending the week with my aunt and uncle.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Kate is wondering, in Ransom Canyon, the chapters are written from various characters' perspectives. What was your process in creating these overlapping storylines?
I don't know. I developed that because I like to show how in small towns people's lives intertwine, and over the course of years, they influence each other. They greatly affect each other. They affect what happens in the town, and I wanted to show that. So I usually start off with 3 or 4 stories that don't seem to be related, but as the story moves, as the plot moves, then you see how they're intertwined and how they play off each other.
A follow-up to that, Kate's also asking, is it difficult to write from changing character perspectives, and how do you adjust but stay true to their voices at the same time?
It's not difficult to write because I see my people very clearly, and it's kind of like people don't get different TV shows mixed up. I don't get the stories of my characters mixed up. But I always do something several times during the book. I will start at the beginning and only read one story, and so that making sure that it follows exactly like it should. So I always, even though there's more than one story, and I'll put them when I put them together, I don't always put them together one chapter at a time. I sometimes jump around.
You make it sound easy, but I'm sure that it's not.
Oh, one thing I did that really helped it be a lot easier in Ransom Canyon is we have a little house out back of we have a mission home, and we have a house out back, and it's just a little apartment. And I went in and stripped everything off the walls and put up whiteboards and all the pictures I could find of the canyon. And I began for 4 months before I even started writing. I wrote the family histories of each family and how old they were and when they were born and everything. And those are on the walls. And then as the stories came, the whiteboards filled up with their plot and the plot movements. So now when I walk in that space in the back of in the little room, I walk into Ransom Canyon in my head.
That's a great idea.
It worked.
Yeah, definitely. Carly is wondering, how did you do research for Ransom Canyon? Did you go anywhere interesting in the name of research?
Lots of places. I grew up around Paladura Canyon, which is larger than Ransom Canyon, but I visited Ransom Canyon and Sunday Canyon and Caprock Canyon and Paladura Canyon, all in the Panhandle. And I knew them well. I knew where the caves were and where the trails were. And so I didn't have to do too much research on the canyons. But what I needed research on was the ranch life. So I have a friend who has a ranch, and it's an old ranch in the Panhandle, and I spent a lot of time out there watching the cowboys work, watching branding and roundup and all that. It was fun, but I wanted to get right.
Right. Carly is wondering, what made you decide to start this new series?
I think it had been in the back of my mind for a long time. I wanted to tell how the people live and how they think, and in a way how the past influences their daily life even today. And I also there were several stories that I wanted to really play with of how sometimes one event in your life that you may not think of as the most important thing actually affects the way you live the rest of your life. And an example in Ransom Canyon of that was I took 4 high school kids who were walking home one night who decided to break into an old house. And what happens when they break into that house affects all their lives.
Mm-hmm. And Lexi is asking, can you tell us a bit about your about your book Winter's Camp? I haven't checked it out yet, and it looks like a fun read.
Winter's Camp? Winter's Camp
Yes.
is the story of the first people, the first Kirklands who came to this area, and I opened with Staten Kirkland's great grandfather riding in to Ransom Canyon. back then, and this is the true part, back then, in the first of the fall, there would be trade days in Ransom Canyon, and all kinds of people that ran across this land. It was still very much beyond the fort line, so it had no law. They would all meet in the same place and trade, and sometimes they traded hostages.
Do you need to read those in order, or does it?
No, I think it would be good. I think people that love reading love hearing the whole story, because people that are readers tell me all the time, one book's never enough. You know, they want more of the characters, and so that's what they get. They get new people, but they also get new people coming into Ransom Canyon, coming into Crossroads, moving on to the ranches, but they also get the people that are there, and they're growing along with them. It'll get fun because you'll feel like you live in the town.
Right, exactly. Susan's wondering, do you have a character that is closest to your heart in Ransom Canyon?
I think I loved Quinn. She's Stanton's lady, and I think I loved her because she was broken, but she was so strong. She turned out to be a very strong person, and I liked Quinn. She had a quiet kind of strength.
Jenny is asking, she says, I love the names of your characters. They're so original. How do you come up with them?
Sometimes I spend a lot of time thinking about the name, because I found that if I don't have the right name, I can't write the character. So I have to sit around and talk to him a while and find out what his name is. Sometimes it gets complicated, but I really have to think of names. Sometimes I see names in books that just fit, you know, and I see that name, and that's right. In one of the minor characters in Ransom Canyon is Wilkes, and I met a man in Dallas, and his name was Wilkes, and I said, "Can I use your name?" And he said, "Sure." So I thought that was an unusual name, and it was a family name, and it sounded very right for my series.
Definitely. Sandra's asking, if writing was no longer an option, what would you do?
Writing were no longer possible. I don't know. I was a teacher before I started writing, and I'm the writer in residence at West Texas A&M University, and I love working with the students. And sometimes I work with the students too late in the day and don't write, and so I love the working with the students. But there's nothing like going home, even when you're tired, sitting down at the computer, and a lot of times I'll say, I'm only going to write 30 minutes tonight, and it's 3 hours before I know it, because I step into the story. And sometimes, this doesn't make sense, but sometimes I write later just to see what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that you work a lot with students. What's the best piece of advice that you give them in their writing?
Best advice?
Yes.
I think it's that a writer writes. If you want to write, if you want to be a writer, you have to put in the time. And I see mostly people who come to me that are not successful at writing. If I ask them, how much did you write this week? How many hours? They'll say, well, I didn't write this week, but I'm going to write next week, you know, and that's the main reason that they don't succeed.
Makes perfect sense.
I think of creativity as a muscle.
Right. And do you find the time to write every single day, or?
I try very hard to write every single day. Every vacation, anywhere I go, I'm always taking my laptop, and even if I just write an hour, I write every day. And I very rarely throw a page away, because I'm usually in my mind, the story is ahead of what I'm writing.
Right. That's interesting. Let's see. Lexi is wondering what's up next for the Ransom Canyon series.
The next book will be Rustler's Moon, and it's finished, so I'm excited. I'm already working on book 3, and going straight through. I'll be ahead of y'all. I hope. I have to be ahead, and so I'm having so much fun, and I see the stories. I have one wall on my in my bunkhouse that has just notes on ideas, and it's just there's ideas on top of ideas, so I'm not going to run out of ideas for the story.
Well, we're glad about that. Do you have pub dates for the upcoming books yet?
Do I have what?
Pub dates, or is there?
January for Rustler's Moon is the only date I have for sure.
Great. Are there any authors you'd like to collaborate with in the future? Asks Mackenzie.
That I would like to collaborate with?
Yeah, maybe write a book or anything.
I don't think so. I don't think so. My stories, they would be hard to blend, and I think early in my career I tried that a few times, and I think every writer has their own style, and for a lot of writers, and I wish I was this kind of writer, they outline. I wish I could outline, but I don't. I just really sit down and let the story roll. And I don't read my books once they're published, and I think if I did, I'd be surprised at what's in them sometimes, because I read them so much when I'm working on them, but I don't read them afterwards. Someday, when I retire, I may do that. I've got 43 to read, so it'll keep me busy.
Right. It'll take a while. Susan's wondering, do you have any say in the design of your book covers?
Yes, lots of say. And in fact, we were really a team. I consider us a team, and we were very much a team working on this, and it was fun. It was fun to see it.
Mackenzie is asking, you've said that as a child being a writer wasn't an option. Do you remember the moment you realized that you could do it as a career? What was that like?
I really didn't think I could. English was my worst subject, and I don't spell very well, and commas have always been a mystery to me, so I didn't really think I could be a writer. But the stories were with me, always with me. And I think the first time I realized that the stories don't follow everybody around was one night when our sons were really small, and we got home late, and I said to my sons, I don't have time to tell you a story tonight. Tell yourself a story and go to sleep. And my husband was standing in the hall, and he said, Jodi, not everybody tells himself a story and goes to sleep. And I thought they did. Until that moment, I thought everybody did that. So I just started writing them down.
That's great. Got some fun questions. One from Chelsea. Do you have a favorite book to movie adaptation?
A favorite book, movie adaptation?
A book to movie, yeah. A favorite book that they later turned into a movie. Maybe it was a little different or not quite what the book was all about.
I'm not quite. I would love to see Ransom Canyon as a movie. Wouldn't that be fun? I think it would be great. I think I would stay away and just be surprised when it turned out. But I think it would be a beautiful book because partly the canyon's beautiful.
Right, of course. Have you thought about who you might cast as the main characters if it were made into a movie? Not to put you on the spot.
No, I haven't. No. I worked with a lady one time on a children's book, and I really see in words. Sometimes I dream in words, and I see in words, and I describe people in words, not so much what they look like, but how they feel what they stand for, that kind of thing.
Right.
So, though I see my characters, I'm sure I would be surprised if I saw a movie, but more I see the inside of them instead of the out.
Makes sense. MM is wondering, what is your go-to snack when you're writing?
M&Ms. I believe the number of M&Ms you eat is directly parallels your creativity.
I agree 100%.
I had a character
Susan's asking
once who only ate green M&Ms because, after all, green things are better for you.
That is true. It's like basically a vegetable at that point, right?
Right.
Susan's wondering, do you have any upcoming book signings or events that we should keep an eye out for?
Yes, I'm doing several. I'm here in Amarillo. I'll be autographing on the 12th at Cavender's, Boot City. And then I'll be at RomCon in the end of the month, and I'll be in Vegas for the book festival in Vegas in November.
Great. Lexi's asking, what types of things do you like to do to keep busy when you're not writing? I'm sure you're very busy writing all the time, but when you have a spare moment.
Now I'm writing most of the time, but I love playing in the garden. I'm not a very good gardener, but I think that's fun. And I love to cook and have the whole family over.
What's your favorite dish to cook? Your go-to?
Well, of course, chicken fried steak.
Of course.
Chicken fried steak does not have chicken in it.
Yes, I found that out recently and was surprised. Jenny's wondering, of the series you've written, do you have a favorite? Kind of like picking a favorite child, I'm guessing, but of all the different series that you've written, yeah.
Of all the different series, do I have a favorite?
Yeah.
I think I love the Harmony series, which was the last series I wrote, and I really learned to write multiple viewpoints working on that series. And the only real person I've ever put in a book was in a book called Twisted Creek, and in it I put the grandmother going into Alzheimer's, and I used my mother as an example. And I think if I read Twisted Creek today, I'd still cry when I read it. But that's the only time. I don't ever use real people.
Mm-hmm. Where can we find you on social media, Jodi?
JodiThomas.com.
Okay, perfect. And let's see here. Elizabeth's wondering, do you ride horses?
I do. Not very much anymore. In fact, when I'm tired, I have a limp because I flew off a horse one day and years ago, and it still causes a slight limp. But I do have a hat. Do you want to see my resistor?
Yes, please.
This
there
is
we
mine.
go. Perfect. Love it. You should do the rest of the chat with that on.
Yeah.
Great.
Now this one has a band on it that yours has a male band. This is more of a girl's band on it.
I see. Yes, I don't know much about cowboy hats myself, but yeah, this is you can see hard to tell on camera, but there's a beautiful buckle and again the inscription on the inside. So a lucky winner will win that today.
That's a neat prize.
It is for sure. Sandra's wondering, if you were stranded on an island, what 3 items do you think you'd need to help get you off the island? Interesting.
What 3 items would I need to get off the island? Cell phone.
Yes, that would be key.
Let's see.
Let's say if you were going to be stuck on that island, what would you need to just help you pass the time?
I can promise you that would never happen. Every time I see one of those shows where people are stranded someplace, I think, how did they get there? That would never happen to me. I consider roughing it, staying a place without a swimming pool. So I don't,
So we don't have to worry about you then.
don't have to worry about me. I'm not going to end up alone on a desert island. Yes, but
That's good. That's always good.
yeah, I love to travel. My husband and I travel a lot, and when we travel, sometimes we end up someplace that we think, how did we get out here? And so, but it's usually in downtown London or something.
Oh, how nice. Yeah. Sandra's asking, do you have a special place that you go to write or a place that really inspires you?
I didn't understand the question.
Sandra's asking, do you have a special place that you go to write or a place that really inspires you?
Yes, we have a little bitty cabin up in New Mexico that's on the Red River. And I can look out my balcony and see deer and beaver and all kinds of things. And if I'm really wanting to write and wanting to isolate, I go up there.
Sounds peaceful.
It's nice. Yes. Quiet.
Let's see. We're almost running out of time. We have time for about one more question. Chelsea's asking, what was the last movie you saw in theaters? Do you have time to go to the movies much?
I saw Ricky and the Flash.
Did you like it?
Yes, it was funny. I love the music.
Great. Yes. Well, we've been doing in some of our chats as of late a sort of rapid fire question session. So we have just a couple of things for you just to kind of end the chat on. And you just answer either or to them. So rapid fire. John Wayne or Clint Eastwood?
Clint Eastwood.
All right. Campfire or indoor fireplace?
Indoor fireplace.
S'mores or potato chips?
S'mores. In fact, the other night we had a deal for literacy, and I was the speaker, and the dessert was s'mores. You had to make your own. It was fun.
Nice. Can't go wrong. Sunsets or sunrises?
Didn't get it.
Sunsets or sunrises?
Sunsets. I'm very much a night person. Sometimes I write all night, and I see all the sunsets, but I don't see very many sunrises.
Who can get up early enough for that, right? Country music or rock and roll?
Country music.
Of course.
My husband and I fight over that all the time.
Horseback riding or hiking? Horseback riding or hiking?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
Horseback riding or hiking?
Horseback riding. It's much more comfortable.
Yes, agreed.
Hardback book. I like to read in hardbacks.
Hardback. And handwriting or typing?
I'm sorry? Oh, I wrote my first book, and it took me forever in handwriting, and so I bought a computer and tripled my speed. So I write only on the computer. Sometimes I write notes in the middle of the night, and then I can't figure out what they say in the morning. But so I don't do that. I should get a computer by my desk.
Yes, just a backup one. Great. Well, that's about all the time that we have for today. We want to thank everyone so much for watching, and don't forget to enter to win a copy of Jodi's book, Ransom Canyon, and this wonderful Resistol hat. And you can do that on BookTrib.com. And Jodi, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you. This is fun. This is great fun.
Take care. Bye-bye.